Welcome to ReVoicing the Future, a Women of NAMM podcast, presented by AKG. Just as one revoices a chord, ReVoicing the Future creates a completely new perspective on the invaluable notes that make up the whole. It will uplift women's voices in the music products industry, which have earned their time to be the root of the chord. Once a month, you can catch productive and valuable conversations with women working in manufacturing, retail, the nonprofit sector, music education, touring, and overall women who inspire us. Together, we can help shape the future of our industry, one interval at a time. This podcast is co-produced and edited by Natalie Morrison, Stephanie Lamond, and Julia Olsen. Oh, hey there, it's Natalie from the future, and I just wanted to pop in here and give you some background and context as to what you're about to listen to on this month's episode of ReVoicing the Future. Happy Women's History Month. Happy belated International Women's Day. It is March. It is a beautiful month. And what better way to celebrate than to bring you a conversation that is incredibly important to myself, to Stephanie and Julia. And that is our NAMM Show session. We recorded it. It's the live session at the show, Creating Sustainable Careers Through Community. This also marks the 50th episode for ReVoicing the Future, so all the things to celebrate. And again, a massive thank you and shout out to our loyal audience from day one to new members who have tuned into the podcast over the years. We are just so grateful for your support through this project. And thank you, NAMM, for giving us the platform to host conversations like these online and at the show. It's a passion project. I'm just so lucky that I get to do this. What you're going to get in this episode is the first 30 minutes of the session where Stephanie, Julia, and myself talk about the importance of finding and building community. And we believe that this is not a one-time conversation. This is something that needs to continue to be talked about as we progress through this crazy thing we call life. A little nod to something else I say in the session. But we wanted to provide this conversation to the greater audience, to those who couldn't attend the session because they were double booked and they were at the NAMM Show, or for those who just couldn't attend the NAMM Show at all. This is a conversation for everyone because community is not exclusive. The second half of the session was a live networking opportunity where we brought in some women in music organizations that are already doing the work to build communities in their respective facets of the industry. And we wanted to give the audience the time to put what we talked about into practice. So you're only going to hear the beginning of the session and then the little wrap up at the end. But that doesn't get you off the hook because I'm encouraging each and every one of you as you listen to this and after the fact, you share this with someone that you think is going to value the information presented, and you start and find new ways on how you build and foster connections and community in the industry. And I have some tools that I didn't speak about necessarily in the session because it was written on a slideshow. So you're not going to be able to see that slideshow. So here are some reflection questions that I want you to think about as you're listening to this. How would you describe the niche of the industry you operate in? Do you feel you are stronger connecting more in person or virtually? What are areas that you need community in? Whether they're areas you need to grow in, or are there areas you can offer something? I want you to visualize your dream community. How would you be involved? Who are they? What attributes do they have? Are you meeting up at a coffee shop? Are you going to a local event in your city? Or are you getting on a Zoom call once a month? As you think about these questions, jot down what you're feeling in this moment, how you're feeling after you've listened to the episode, and go do it. Go build, find that community that is going to support you and push you to be your best self. Now, I do want to just give a shout You're going to hear these shout outs throughout the rest of the episode, but I want to thank all of the women in music organizations that came out to show their support and be there to foster those connections. Women of NAMM, the Women's International Music Network, Women in Music, Women's Audio Mission, Gritty and Pink, Girls Make Beats, and SheQ Audio. Thank you, thank you, thank you from the bottom of our hearts for taking the time to be there. I hope you're all having a fantastic Women's History Month, and please share this episode with anyone and everyone who you think will gain something from it. We are already seeing the ripple effects from this session and the impact that it has had on those who attended. And I'm just so grateful for that. So just stay tuned. And I can't wait for you to see what the team and myself have up our sleeves this year for ReVoicing the Future. So sit back, relax, and I will talk to you later. What's up, everyone? Welcome to ReVoicing the Future. Hi, ladies. My name's Natalie Morrison. I am one of the co-hosts and co-producers of ReVoicing the Future. That's one of the many hats that I wear in this industry. I am also the senior segment marketing specialist for education at the Yamaha Corporation of America. Ladies, you want to introduce yourselves?
Hi, I'm Julia Olsen. I am the podcast co-producer and editor of ReVoicing the Future. So excited to be here with you. I'm also a singer-songwriter, producer, mix engineer, and overall music nerd. Yes.
I love it. Love it. And I'm Stephanie Lamond. I also go by Lucky Lamond, my artist name. I'm a singer-songwriter. I'm a creative producer and a writer. I primarily do stuff about authentic expression in the arts and storytelling. So stoked to be here with you all today to do all this stuff that we love. So kick it off now. Let's do it.
If you're not familiar, ReVoicing the Future is a Women of NAMM podcast that aims to provide a platform to learn from and celebrate women's voices across NAMM's key focus areas of music products, nonprofit education, pro audio and entertainment industries, with the ultimate goal of helping to build more equitable gender representation across the industry. So today's session is all about creating sustainable careers through community. Now, that sounds like a very fancy term for a title, but that's what we like to do here. Keep you on your toes. And this idea stemmed from last year, which was an introspective look on how our careers are our career trajectories are basically climbing a ladder. The foundations and how we climb and build and change ladders throughout our time, basically the internal look at that. This year, we want to take that to the next level and talk about the external, which is why finding and building community is so important in our careers, especially as women. Now, community building is a human nature ideology in general, right? So we do that every day where we live, the people that we hang out with. But in our own jobs, it's important for us to have the community of people who support, that we connect with and grow with to help us get through this crazy thing we call life. That was a Prince nod.
Yeah. Shout out the piano upstairs.
Shout out to the piano upstairs. I had to do it. So what we're going to do is we're basically going to talk to you about how to find and build communities, why it's important. And then we have some very special guests who have so graciously taken time out of their busy shows to be here. Other women in music organizations across all facets of the music industry so that you can put this into practice and start building and finding your communities here today. So if that sounds good with you, we're going to get started. If it doesn't, you can leave, but we're not going to be insulted.
All right. Go for it. Let it begin.
All right, I'm going to start us off here. So we started brainstorming for this session quite a while ago, and we really took some time to talk about what is it that we think is important to communicate? What do we have to share that we think will be really valuable for you all here today? And something that we kept coming back to is community. And when we just look around NAMM, the women here are very noticeable because we are definitely the fewer, but we are all important. And I want to just first say that we are so excited that you are here, each and every one of you. That seat that you are in was saved for you. So thank you for coming. We see you. We really appreciate you taking time to hang with us. And we're so glad that you're here. In building community, the first thing I would encourage everyone to do is to identify your personal values. Now, it might sound a little backwards because it's, again, introspective, but really take time to assess what are the things that are important to you and write those things down. What is it that at the foundational level is so important to you? I pause there to really give everyone a chance to think about that, because I don't hear that talked about very often, but it's really important. So what is it that is important to you? And the reason that's important to stop and think about is because that becomes the foundation of your community. That becomes a common value and a common goal. And when you start building community off a common goal, it stops becoming about you and it starts becoming about the goal. And so I think a lot of times when we are at network events, you see the suit jackets and the business cards getting passed around, and it doesn't always feel great. And I think that's because we get into this habit of building transactional networks. But I'm going to encourage everyone to start building relational community. And that's a big, big difference. But that doesn't happen if you don't start out with the foundation of your values. And I think a common value we all share here today is we want to support and encourage women in the music industry. We want that. We want every woman in the industry to feel important, to feel valued, to feel respected, to feel like they belong here, right? And so I've been thinking about this phenomenon called sympathetic resonance. Can you raise your hand if you've heard of sympathetic resonance? All right. What sympathetic resonance is, let's say you sit down at an acoustic piano and you play a note. And you're like, oh, that's a really pretty note. The hammer hits the string and it starts to vibrate. But what actually happens, because of physics, is it impacts the notes around it. And sometimes if you hit that note hard enough, you'll actually hear the notes around that vibrate. And it's called sympathetic resonance. So because you play one note, the things around it are impacted. And I was thinking about that in the scope of what we're doing here. You doing a good job impacts those around you. You working hard, you putting your values first, you being a good person impacts those around you. But what happens when you have that common goal and you come aroundside other people who have that same goal and that same value? Well, you start adding other notes. And pretty soon the overtones, the undertones, all of those notes together create a sonic environment that wasn't there before. And we get to be a part of that. And in the music industry, we get to see that sympathetic resonance in form of that young girl who says, hey, I see those women. Maybe there's a place for me here. You start to hear conversations about people in their workplace saying, I haven't really focused my time and energy on the women I work with, and I'm going to start to do that because it's important. And we get to participate in that because we're building a community based upon our values, and we're putting people first, not our business card. And we're going to build something really beautiful. So thank you for coming.
Yes.
Aww.
Julia. She just captures the heart of it so well. I feel like you're the best. Okay. So to build off of that, right, as we talk about now what we're building, I'm going to get real metaphorical for you all because I love an image-based way of thinking about
whole podcast.
It is the whole
just
podcast.
Metaphors.
So I want to start with kind of that phrase, a rising tide lifts all boats. And I'm going to deviate from it quickly, but I want to say that because, right, we know what that means. It means as everything expands and grows, everything grows together. And I want to emphasize that this is just good business. This is productive. Focusing on community and growing through community is worth spending time on just as much as it is a technical skill. So remember, this is really important. Great. Woohoo. So I'm going to move on from that. I want to offer another metaphor for how we can think about community, how we can visualize it. Let's think about it for a little bit as a root system or kind of as a mycelial network. I watched the Netflix documentary about mushrooms like a year ago and just blew my mind. Nature is so smart. And if you're not familiar about this, it's basically the concept that mushrooms are trees as well. They similarly function. You see just a little bit on the surface, and underground, the root system is connecting. The mycelial network is the brain of the mushroom, and it's like miles sometimes underground. And it's sending information, it's connecting with other organisms. It's just this giant, vast ecosystem that is functioning healthily. And I think if we can think of our communities in music like this, the music industry as a whole, and say women in music as well, it offers a really rich metaphor for that. So I think for two ways that I want to highlight today. So first one being that representation equals permission, and that means the growth of the industry. So in that way, if you see, I want to kind of use the metaphor, say you have some little mad scientist, pro audio engineer that hasn't really found her footing yet, but she stumbles across on YouTube a video of Sylvia Massey talking about how she threw an amp off of a cliff to record the sound of it falling. And this gal in her room is like, oh, I could do that. And follows that creative niche and creative urge and joins that root system. And I think that means growth, but part of us all showing up in these root systems, I think, is really valuable because it creates that representation. And so you see people seeing little bits of themselves joining it, and that community grows. And nature teaches us that a diverse ecosystem is really, really healthy, and it will expand and it will grow. And for music, that means more innovation. It means the industry grows. It means that sustainable community, one, a fulfilling career, but two, our industry thrives and we all get to keep working. So we need the diversity. We need people to come in exactly as they are and to be like as niche as you can be, because it's important. Follow your own path and find that authentic nature. As Julia said, do your values, do that. And that is why that's so important, because it drives innovation and it drives this growth. And then to build off of that is I want to really emphasize as well the power of collective connection that communities bring. So, and you already touched on this a little bit with the sympathetic resonance, but if we go back to the root system analogy, think about it that how everything is connected. You have the roots that are kind of right at the base of the tree. They're strong. They've been there since the beginning. Then you got these new shoots that are coming out, and everybody's got different things to offer to that collective, but they're sharing information. In music, that means they're sharing mentorship. They're sharing education. They're sharing their connections. In an industry of relationships, that is vital. And think about how that compounds when we are all our own little communities and root systems as well. So if you latch on to say any of us, right, us joining together, it compounds by what we bring to it. And then again, that means a growing industry, that means a thriving industry, it means a healthy industry. And I think a really great way to exhibit this is a case study from our Women of NAMM network. They couldn't be here today, but I want to shout them out. Femme House is a DJ collective. I'm most connected to them up in the Bay Area. And I have a really good friend, DJ Laconi, Dana Eisenhower. And I think they are excelling at this. So they have Facebook groups, they have text groups. They're all, one, they're well connected. They have close friendships. They know they can lean on each other to talk about the craft. They can ask questions about the craft. Like, oh, how I'm running into this problem with my mix. How can I do this? And I think the most valuable thing that they do is say, Dana will get on a bill. She'll call our network if there's an opening and be like, who wants to open for me? And they will share that really tangible support of gigs. So the whole community is gigging, they're working, they're learning, they're thriving, and they have this beautiful connection of shared experience. And as a whole now, we have a great community of women DJs in the Bay Area and gender expansive individuals. So be like Femme House, I think, right? In the Bay Area, it helps me to have a metaphor and a case study for that. If you see yourself, you can do it. It means diversity, it means growth. And once you're in, the growth compounds because of how we are all interconnected in that root system and thinking of the health of the whole and investing ourselves in the rest of that system to create that network. Yeah. So I'm going to pass it back to Julia, because now that we have that established, you gotta know how to do it, because we all know this is important. And back to what Nat was saying too, right? We all know community is important, but what we're really hoping to offer is just new perspectives and new tools as you network and as you kind of form these communities. So yeah, how we get into it is where we're going next.
So half of our talk today is intentionally encouraging. We want you to leave being like, yes, I've got this. We want to see the excitement, the energy. The other half is practical tips, because we don't want you to leave encouraged with nothing else to do. And we want to be helpful. So we're going to give you some practical tips you can take and use in real time. We're going to have a hang after the session so you get a chance to meet the people around you, put these things into practice. So, how do you build community? How do we actually do it? We have our values, we have the people around us that are encouraging us. Where do we go from there? Well, the first thing is know your strengths. Know the areas that you excel in. I talked about this in much greater detail in our last panel last year, but really know what you're good at. Where do you shine the most? Are you great with LinkedIn? Are you excellent on social media? Is that the place that is really where you are at your best? Are you great in that area? Use it. Let that be the place that you start to build your community. Start to connect with other people who have that same passion, that same drive, that same focus. Go with where you're good at. Maybe you're not really into social media. LinkedIn isn't like your best friend, but you're so good in person. Where are those shows? Where are those mixers? Where are those networking events? And go meet those people, talk to them, make some friends. We've talked a lot just off microphone about how much we value each other's friendship. We go back and forth over text messages, we have life updates, and we value each other as friends. So as much as you see us on stage, we're having a lot of off-camera conversations because we care about each other as humans. And so to do that, we'll show up where you are most yourself. So if that's in person, do your research. If that's on LinkedIn, do your research. But I can guarantee every one of you have an area that you're like, this is the most me. I really excel in this environment. And if you don't know, start to talk to friends of yours. Ask them, hey, where do I look the most comfortable? Ask around, ask your mentors, ask your friends. And don't shy away from asking those questions because that will give you confidence. And then that will give an insight into those people around you. And then they will support and encourage you.
I mean, and what a relief too. It occurs to me, we haven't talked about this yet, but that's also, it can be so overwhelming to think about all this and trying to hit all of those boxes. When you know what your strength is and can pour yourself into it, it's less, you do that one thing and you do it really well, rather than trying to spread yourself too thin across socials, across going to networking events. Like, I mean, do a little bit of it, but it's more effective too to do it that way. I love that point. Cool. So I think with that in mind too, then we get into something that I'm excited to kind of get in everybody's heads. It's something Julia and I have heard growing up in pro audio. Shout out Piper Payne, who talked about it on our podcast. There was another panel yesterday that talked about it too. It is the phrase, be a good hang. And it's the thought that, right, if you're an incredible engineer, but you're in the studio and you're just getting in the way of other people's creativity, you're just not helping things flow, you still won't get called back no matter how fast you are with Pro Tools, right? So you have to be able to be a good hang. And I think while that can also be a little terrifying, I think the biggest key of that, I've been hearing more often that networking, people are like, ooh, it's more community building feels right. I think the difference in that is that transactionality that you mentioned. And so when you go into a situation and you have the thought of like, it's subconscious a little bit, right? You're like, oh, I know they work here. I'd love to work there. You go talk to them. It's a subtle nuance between, oh, I know they work there. I love that company. Maybe that's a new part of my network. People can tell that subtle difference. And having that in mind means you're building a relationship and a connection rather than anything transactional. And that also, though, is not to say it's not intentional. We want to be building intentionality in our networking and our root system growing rather than transactionality. And that little bit of a shift, I think, is huge in these moments when we're trying to be a good hang in a large, overwhelming situation, like say a NAMM show, when there's a million things going on. And a lot of people are also pretty introverted, but we're all trying not to be. And so keeping that in mind, just who's this new part of my root system? How can we grow this? And I think that does all the difference. So I think that's the subtle thing I can offer. I think we go from there into practicing. I had a really good example of this I wanted to shout out to Cassandra Sotos. I don't know if she's here yet.
She's there. She's somewhere. I saw her.
From Women in Music, owner of AmpRx, violinist. We interviewed her last week, and I was really excited to tell you about this because she puts this in practice flawlessly. We were talking to her in our interview about when she moved from New York City to Nashville. She had already been really involved in Women in Music, had made some of her best friends in that, knew she was going to have to kind of start from scratch in a new city. So one, she started a new chapter. Shout out everybody that we welcomed here today too, the organizations that are doing this work, providing anchors for us to latch onto and find these niches. But she thought about it in the way that she already knew it was to build friendship, but she set out to become, as she put it, part of the fabric of that music community. And I can think of no better way for us to have that mindset when you're building your root network is to become part of the fabric of your communities that you're wanting to be part of. It's so beautiful and authentic and value driven. And so, yeah, channel Cassandra Sotos and become part of the fabric of the communities you want to join.
Yes. Oh, I love it. Okay. I encourage everyone to reflect on the questions that are up on the screen. We are in information overload this weekend, and I think it's really important that we take the time to understand what we need to feel like we can grow and be successful. So maybe tonight, maybe on Monday, after the craziness has calmed down, take some time and really think through these points that we've all touched on throughout these past 20, 25 minutes. But I want to get into the fun, interactive portion. So part of the idea for this session was, I think it's so important that we highlight the communities that are already in the industry doing the work to uplift and celebrate women and gender expansive people in the industry. Full stop. The industry is big, but it's small at the same time. And there are so many different facets that you can get involved in. So we thought it would be fun to bring some of those organizations today to give you the opportunity to put everything that we just talked about into practice. So I'm going to read from my notes like a New Yorker very quickly. If I call your name and you're here, can you please stand and raise your hand so that the people who want to talk to you know where to go? So we have the co-chairs of Women of NAMM here. I know I saw Leanne Chu, Morgan Walker, and Julie Wagnitz is in the back. Women of NAMM supports female leadership and drives vision, mission, and objectives to connect, support, and grow women in the industry. And joining Women of NAMM is included with your NAMM membership, and it provides opportunities to develop leadership aspirations and expand connections within the industry. We have the lovely ladies of the Women's International Music Network here, Laura Whitmore and Mickey Angeline. The Women's International Music Network was designed to create a hub to connect women in all facets of the music industry through events like the She Rocks Awards, which rocked the stage upstairs last night, as well as the She Rocks podcasts and articles and just amazing things. So they're great ladies to know. We have Cassandra Sotos and Belinda Legato here. They are representing women in music. They are both active members and co-chairs of the Nashville chapter and the global chapter of Women in Music, which is a nonprofit organization committed to advancing equality, visibility, and opportunities for women in the musical arts through education, support, empowerment, and recognition. We have Terry Winston here, who's part of Women's Audio Mission. Women's Audio Mission uses music and media arts training, mentorship, and conferences to serve over 2,000 women, girls, and gender-expansive people annually in order to inspire them to amplify their voices and become the innovators of tomorrow. We have some honorable mentions who could not make it here last minute, but I still want to shout them out because they are phenomenal organizations. Ebony Smith is the founder of Gender Amplified. They empower women and gender-expansive music producers by inspiring the next generation of audio professionals in the music industry by developing an inclusive pipeline to advance a community of music producers, engineers through state-of-the-art STEAM education, community building, and the power of storytelling. We have Shira Yevon here from Gritty and Pink. Their mission is to achieve gender equity and equality in the music industry through our online marketplace, events, and community. Unfortunately, Whitney Tabor just texted me that she's running late, but no, she represents Girls Make Beats, and I know Becky Barabas is here, and someone else might be here. Woo! Yes! Girls Make Beats just made their daytime television debut on the Jennifer Hudson show this week. So that's phenomenal. So proud. They are a 501c3 nonprofit organization that empowers girls by expanding the female presence of music producers, DJs, and audio engineers. They work with girls ages 5 to 17 and host educational seminars, summer camps, industry panels, and networking events. Oh, I see Jen Ting. Yay! She is here representing SheQ from Canada, and she's brought a whole group of wonderful female producers and DJs and engineers. We are moving the needle. It was founded by Emily Lazar, who is a mastering engineer extraordinaire, and they are a nonprofit organization supporting all women recording industry professionals, audio engineers, and producers, and they are working to create measurable change by empowering women in the recording and professional audio industry with the education, equipment, and mentorship needed to succeed at the highest levels. So, for the next 20 to 25 minutes, we encourage each of you to network. If you came with someone that you know already, go meet somebody else. Talk to the person next to you, behind you, in front of you, or someone from the other side of the room. This is a space for you to build and grow those connections firsthand so that you can continue through the rest of your show with new friends. And then we're going to regroup for some final thoughts for the last 5 minutes. And with that, mingle away.
Start your root system. Enjoy it. Grow. We all meet a new person or two in our corner of the industry.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Nice.
That was the point. It's exciting. Did it. Woo! I feel good. I don't know if you feel good, but I feel great. See just what a few minutes of connection can do. Now you can take this and you have friends that you can continue to see throughout the rest of your show and maybe even beyond, hopefully beyond. That's the point. We want to make sure that these connections and relationships are sustainable because we work in an industry that is relationship based. Yeah. I want to thank everyone here who has taken the time out of your very busy schedules and all the sessions that you could have attended. You chose this one and it means so much to us. So thank you for being here. To my special guests, thank you from the bottom of my heart for being here. It is a really beautiful and powerful thing to witness organizations that have the same common goal come together and continue to fight the good fight for what we're all striving for, which is more equitable gender representation. And it's amazing. So thank you so, so much. Community is not exclusive. I just want to make sure that that is said. And I want to thank all the allies in the room who have taken the time to be here today because I hope that you've listened, you've learned, you've also made connections, and you can take something back with you so that you can continue to uplift and support the people in your own community, in your own jobs. And so thank you so, so much. With that said, I'm Natalie.
And I'm Steph.
I'm Julia.
And we're revoicing the future one interval at a time. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to this episode of ReVoicing the Future. You can subscribe to the podcast on all major streaming platforms or visit our website. Be sure to follow us on social media to stay up to date on all things Women of NAMM. This episode was co-produced and edited by Natalie Morrison, Stephanie Lamond, and Julia Olsen. Together, we can help shape the future of our industry one interval at a time. See you next time.